Encyclopedia Log, Top 5 1980s Heavyweight Bouts. What fights from the lost generation do I believe are the 5 best? Championships on the line or not? There's some bangers despite the negative label, and if you've watched my 80s timeline, you know I'm fond of this era. Again, this is my opinion, and I'd like to hear your top 5 in the comments. Let's begin. Number 5. Evander Holyfield versus Michael Dokes. BoxingPedia Log, March 11, 1989. Evander Holyfield was the new heavyweight on the scene, looking to secure a shot against Iron Mike Tyson. Michael Dynamite Dokes was looking to return to the heights he reached in the early 80s as a title holder. This is a recipe for a war of the wills, and that's just what unfolded. Dokes provided the real deal, by far his toughest test at the heavyweight rank. His hand speed proved problematic, and he was giving Holyfield the business here and there. In fact, this fight is the hinge of which the Corn Rose version of Dokes has a solid reputation. Make no mistake about it, Evander held his ground and showed his merit as a first-class fighter. It culminated in the 10th round when the real deal finally broke through and started landing at will. Dokes wobbled around and bounced off the ropes before referee Richard Still stepped in. Dokes crashed to the canvas after the stoppage, and Evander Holyfield was one step closer to his date with the heavyweight champion. Number 4. Larry Holmes versus Carl Williams. BoxingPedia Log, May 20th, 1985. Larry Holmes was deep into his reign as heavyweight champion, which dated back to his 1978 win over Ken Norton. Carl "The Truth" Williams is a 6'5", hungry, young lion full of confidence and capability. There were 10 years of age between the two warriors. The undefeated Williams backed up much of his pre-fight talk by taking the fight to the champion, but he slowed as the fight went on, and Larry took advantage with good pacing, which yielded a more even performance. Both men were wobbled, and there were some eye-candy combos in there that are worthy of a replay. When the dust settled, the Truth bowed to each side of the ring in a display that he believed he'd won. The judges disagreed and rewarded the battered Eastern assassin the win, making him 48-0 with 20 title defenses. He was a lone win away from tying Rocky Marciano's record. It was the most punishment the champion had taken up to that point. Williams and the crowd believed it was a robbery. What do you think? I love this fight. It wound up being the end of Larry's glory. Ironic, given its billing as Quest for Glory. Number 3. Larry Holmes versus Tim Witherspoon. BoxingPedia Log, May 20th, 1983. That's right, 2 years to the day before the Holmes-Williams fight. In this rewind, Larry Holmes was 14 title defenses into his undefeated reign and riding the high of his conquest over Jerry Cooney. However, terrible Tim Witherspoon was about to raise questions over just how strong Larry's grip was over the division. Larry underestimated his man, suffering from the strength of the challenger's offense while equally struggling against Witherspoon's defense. Even Larry's top-ranked jab couldn't net him an advantage. It should have been a disaster, but Larry Holmes dug deep and fought like a champion. The 9th round is one of the greatest rounds in boxing history, and I recommend you watch it in full, even if you don't want to watch the full fight. Larry ultimately won a split decision, but many believed Witherspoon had done enough for the win. Holmes showed the wounds of war after, wounds similar to those he would suffer 2 years later to Williams. I'd say May 20th isn't Larry's day, but he's 2 for 2. Despite some earlier career hiccups, this was the point where Larry Holmes became human and more vulnerable. Number 2. Mike Tyson versus Trevor Berbick. BoxingPedia Log, November 22nd, 1986. Now in his sophomore campaign, Young Mike Tyson had the opportunity of his life to become the youngest man to win a portion of the heavyweight crown. Floyd Patterson, a student of Cus D'Amato's like Tyson, won the crown at 21 years old. His opponent, Trevor Berbick, had retired Tyson's hero, Muhammad Ali. As if that weren't enough, Berbick antagonized Tyson to try and psych him out. All it did was piss the challenger off. Kid Dynamite enforced himself on Berbick from the jump, but the champion's pride led to him standing right in front of Tyson. He refused to back down. He paid for it and found himself flailing like a drunk man, but he survived the first. In the second, Tyson opened with a barrage that dropped Berbick, who rose quickly and survived by holding. It didn't last long, and Berbick was decked again. He tried getting up twice, showing his heart, but he comically stumbled back down each time. When he did rise, he was waved off by referee Mills Lane. The new WBC champion was 20 years old and moving on in the HBO Heavyweight World Series. You can watch that entire tournament by clicking or tapping the bubble in the top right corner. Berbick, the great derailer as I've called him before, failed to do so against Tyson. Before my number one, here are some honorable mentions.
Good right hand by Spinks. And Cooney is hurt. Cooney is hurt. Spinks may be arm weary, but Cooney can't stop him. Swinging much as he went of the fifth round.
Okay, I gave both of you instructions in your dressing room.
Thrown by Mike Weaver. Now an assault by Doak.
He's coming on strong. Doak's an arrogant sort of an attitude. He's off.
It'll be in the hands now, the three judges, Harold Letterman, Larry Hasselhoff.
As a heavyweight to be contended with wins as we saw earlier.
Uppercut, and Marvis is hurt.
Anthony Ferguson, the first time you saw him here on ABC.
We talked to Tyson last night. He said, mandatory 8 count isn't as inviting. And there was an upper no swing. There's a smashing left hand. Seeing the punch, and those are the punches. There's the punch. So that those kinds of punches, that's a fighter. Oh, what a shot.
Round after round. Oh, a big right hand. And done. Oh, no, stop the fight. Down he goes. And in comes Mike. There was a big right hand. Larry's nailed again. Down he
Back up, he keeps coming. Throws a bizarre right hand to the back of
Foreman pushes him off on a right hand and another.
There's 22 seconds left in round 6, and that left hook did hurt him. That's a knockdown. I think Howie wants to quit. That's it.
Down rulings, 3 knockdown rulings being weighed. Shake hands and good luck to both of you.
Costa. Two good hooks by Stewart. There's a right hand by Stewart. Heading for the bell. Does the corner. I mean, if you have Alex Stewart went to school.
Number 1. Larry Holmes versus Jerry Cooney. BoxingPedia log, June 11, 1982. Rare is it that a fight lives up to or surpasses the initial excitement and anticipation. Nasty build-up, racial tensions, death threats, legacies on the line. Pride versus glory. In what I deemed in my 80s timeline to be the final appearance of the peak form Eastern assassin, Larry Holmes went to war with Jerry Cooney. Cooney had been labeled the Great White Dope by the champion, and did well to disprove this notion. Larry dropped Cooney early, but the challenger rose to not only endure the sharp offense of the champ, but dish out some punishment of his own. Larry's jab, perhaps for the final time, looked like it could penetrate any defense. He was dancing and mixing it up well. He ultimately proved too much for the driven challenger, when the fight was stopped by Cooney's corner in the 13th after a knockdown. It was over, and it was one for the books. Jerry Cooney, in defeat, proved he belonged. Larry Holmes was just on another level. A level he would fall from after this. Perhaps Cooney earned the credit for this feat. Perhaps. It was Larry's 12th title defense as he moved to 39-0. I've no idea how this fight didn't win Fight of the Decade, but everything's subjective at the end of the day. Hard to top Holmes Cooney in any decade, as far as my taste goes. There's my list. Remember, it's just one man's opinion, a man who's interested in hearing your opinion. What are your top 5 heavyweight bouts from the 1980s? And if you enjoyed this, my 80s timeline is at the bottom of the description for you to enjoy the entire history of the Lost Generation. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss my uploads, and consider joining for superior benefits. This is the Charles Jackson, author of the Boxing Encyclopedia, and I'll see you in my next entry. Thank you.